Today we are going to talk about something really big and beautiful and overwhelming. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me because I really believe this is going to be a life-changing podcast for you. And I also believe that at its onset, you could feel like, gosh, I don't know if I can handle this on a random Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever day you're listening to this. And so bear with this because we need to all hear this. And one of the reasons we need to hear it is because it's going to change our perspective in our life. And one of the reasons we need to hear it is because I do believe God has given us a lot of purpose in the midst of what we're going to talk about today, specifically prayer and aiding and coming alongside the persecuted church. And so today I have two friends, new friends joining me. The first friend, Josh, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Help the Persecuted and where you work. And then I'll let you introduce Nabil.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having us on this podcast, Jenny. Yeah, my name is Josh Youssef, and I serve as the president and CEO of Help The Persecuted. I have been involved in what I'll call Muslim ministry, Muslim evangelism for the last 23 years of my life. And, God spoke to me after 9/11, and it was a desire that he placed in my heart and on my mind to reach the Muslim world for Christ. And he connected me with great people like my brother Nabil, who serves as a director in, I think we're just going to say, a Middle East country. And it's a Middle East country that he himself actually experienced suffering and had to leave what he knew and what he loved as a result of fleeing ISIS. And I'm glad he's joining us here on this podcast today.
And so to protect Nabil's identity, we are going to change his voice. He is live with us right now, but this is not his voice that you're going to be hearing. And we are just doing everything in our power to protect him as he bravely shares his story. So Nabil, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Tell us just a little bit about your story, how you met Jesus.
Thank you for the invitation and my story. I grew up in a Christian family. I went to church since I was a kid, and I was listening to everything in the Bible. And my mom and dad was believers, but till I got about 17, 18 years old, I realized that it's not about my mom and dad's faith. I need to take the step of faith and believe in Jesus and accept him as a savior of my life. So my journey with him started about since I was 17 to 18 years old, and in 2007, God called me to work with the Muslims to reach the Muslims to Christ. And since 2007 till now, I'm doing what I can do for His glory.
Let's talk about Help the Persecuted before we get into this. What is the goal, Josh, that you have in this ministry?
I started in media. In the early 2000s, began working with Radio Monte Carlo. I'll give you the short story of that. It was a tower that was actually built by Hitler in the 30s that he was going to use to broadcast propaganda from Monte Carlo into North Africa. But before he could broadcast his Nazi propaganda into North Africa, the war had ended, and a Christian man came. Paul Freed was his name, with some money from the U.S., from the Dodge family, and they took over that tower and signed a 99-year contract with the Monegasque government to broadcast Christian programming. And I was a part of that in what I would say the late 90s, early 2000 timeframe. And I really believe and still believe that media is a very powerful medium of communication to reach the Muslim world. And what we created as a result of that broadcasting and then television on top of that was this what we call follow up. And in in this part of the world, follow up is, everybody knows what follow up is. It's basically two components. It's audience relations, so interacting with people who are contacting your ministry, and then there's an on the ground component. And what I realized pretty early on was the on the ground teams were coming back and saying, this is much more than just a theological problem that these people are having, particularly if once they've taken a step to follow Christ, they actually begin to experience really heavy, dark social, cultural problems. We sometimes use this term civic death, where the community says, no, we reject your conversion to the point where we're going to lock you in your room, take away your ability to earn an income. We're going to bring the imam in. We're going to torture you, electric shock, female genital mutilation. These are the things that people experience once they've accepted Christ out of a Muslim background. And so around 2011, I felt this call to really create a network that would rescue, restore, and rebuild these people so that we don't see a recidivism rate of going back to Islam, which we have seen high rates of that over the last 20 something years. So this rescue, restore, rebuild process is central to what we do. We're ministers of the gospel who rescue, restore, and rebuild the lives of persecuted believers. And some people may look at percentages of Christians in different populations. So they might see, well, Lebanon has this percentage of Christians and Iraq has this percentage. But when we use those statistics, we're talking primarily about the church, the Orthodox church, or the established church in that country, which has existed for 2,000 years. We're not looking at the convert population. The convert population experiences a degree of persecution that the cultural church will never see and may never see because of this honor shame culture, because of this belief that when someone leaves Islam, they must be killed. They must either come back or they must be killed. And that's even in a moderate, even in moderate countries, that thinking still exists. So this is what our team does. We have 19 safe houses. We have sustainable farming projects. We have a project of what we call enduring livelihood, where we help people build a business, sustain that business.
How do people find you, Josh? How do they know?
I would say over the last 5 years, the team has become so embedded, and Nabil is critical to that they are known by either the established church that don't know what to do with a convert that comes to them, or even missionaries and organizations that don't have the architecture and the capacity to do what we do. We now become, I often say, our teams are on speed dial of a lot of missionaries, a lot of churches, and a lot of media organizations. And so we've become this kind of critical piece to that rescue and restoration process of the believer.
So to be clear, Nabil, you are both in a Islamic country that is dangerous and helping believers there, and have also in your history fled ISIS. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we live in an Islamic country, and there is so much danger for a Muslim to become a Christian, and for even us, the believers who can share the Christ with them. It will be dangerous for us, of course, because we had some stories before. People got killed because of sharing Jesus with other Muslims, and their family, when they knew about it, they killed him. He was in our church, one of these people. This was before ISIS, before 2014. It was like 2012 or 2013 in my country, in my city that I used to live in before ISIS. So yeah, it is dangerous every time, every day, and there's so many people converting from Islam to Christianity, and as I told you, since 2007 till now, I knew hundreds, maybe more than hundreds of people that I knew became Christians. Many of them got persecuted, and even if the ones who are not persecuted, they are living in secretly in dangerous and fear situation.
Talk about your personal story of when you fled ISIS.
Well, I used to live in a city. It's so Islamic, and we planted a church in that city, me and my father, and then we started the church at 2007, 2008, until 2014 when ISIS entered so many cities in my country. One of them was our city, and we fled from them. And we fled like just we left everything, only in our cars and the clothes that we are wearing, and we ran away. It was it's like movies. It was like movies. Thousands of cars running away from the city.
Mm-hmm.
And something happened to me after 1 month. They gave it's okay for Christians to come back to their cities. We will not harm you. We will not do anything. It was a trap for the Christians.
Mm.
I knew it was trap, but I need some papers, some things in my house. So I used this news to go back to the city, me and my wife, and took my things. And the way back, I was in a car, and my wife stayed with the other car with my friend because for the safety, because the car that I took some furniture from my house and some things. I was in it. They captured me, and I stayed with them like a 4 hour for 4 hours. Then I sent a message for my wife and for the church. I told them I'm with these bad guys, and I need a prayer because if they knew I'm a minister and I minister with Muslims, I helped many Muslims to become Christians in that city, they will kill me. So after 4 hours, hard hours, someone came and he said, they told me the prince, they have prince, they have the leader, they call him the prince, the emir. They said, here, the emir, the prince will come and decide what we will do with you. After about 4 hours, someone came to me, he said, the prince is busy, and he told me to let everyone out, and it's only you, so you can go leave. So it was a miracle that
Wow.
I survived that day.
Mm.
Yeah, and after that, I didn't come back to that city till their control gone, and they destroy. Like I lost everything in my house in that time. Even my old memories and my old the photos of me when I was kid
Mm.
for my kids.
Mm.
My even my wedding film, my wedding video, everything. I have no memories now. It's all in my mind. I know physical things to see.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
you
so
So
know,
sorry.
Jenny, I'll say this. I remember when Nabil and I were in his home country, and I asked him about his fleeing from ISIS. And I said, we now know that ISIS was not a very large military uh, group of people. It was kind of small. And I remember Nabil saying to me that a few months later, when he was in exile outside of his hometown, he looked on Facebook and he saw some of his old neighbors who had joined ISIS. You know, so many
he
people.
was my best friend actually. He
That's
was my
right.
Mm.
best friend. Yes.
And I
Yes,
never
one of
forget
my
what you
best
said.
friends there.
You said he had a beard and he was holding up his finger like
Yeah.
number one with the
Well,
ISIS flag.
the photo I saw, it's after when they are done. They said he got killed, but I heard that
Mm.
he became with them because of they give him money. They give them salaries, and he used to be not like them and don't like them and hate them and call them bad words. But when they came and captured the city, he went and attended to them for the salary, and after that they brainwashed him, and he was a fighter, and then they killed him.
let's talk about what you're seeing on the ground. I mean, I think a lot of people can't believe that today there are Christians being killed for their faith. So, could you tell us some stories of what you've seen on the ground?
Long story short, this month only, we have confirmed 2 got killed and 2 or 3 missing. We don't know what's their destiny. Only in this month or 3 weeks only.
These are friends of yours?
One of them are I baptized myself, and the other one is attend my church, and other guys are we help them with the help the persecuted.
So they are going about ministry, and they are pulled out of their families and killed or imprisoned, or they are just becoming Christians.
Because some Christians they got persecuted, and we have not 1 or 2 persecuted. Like only me since 2017 maybe. I'm working with the help the persecuted. Maybe hundreds of people I knew, and I sent the stories of them. All of them are persecuted. They became Christians. You know, everyone when became Christian, you feel like happy with this new faith and with the salvation and with the freedom, like feeling and with the love of God. So sometimes, most of the times, they share with other people their new faith, and they get mad of them, and they started to persecute them immediately. Sometimes they kill them. Sometimes they like take their wives from them, take their kids from them, take this like everything. Like they tell them, if you don't leave, we will kill you. Some of them they like make false they go to the court and they make false crimes for them so they can put them in jail. Many things. There is like a very high variety of persecution happening in my country.
Prior to about the 1980s, Jenny, we didn't see mass conversions of Muslims. Really, since the 7th century of Islam to the 1980s, there just weren't that many conversions of Islam. Even my family, if I ask my Egyptian family, how many converts did you know in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s? They would say none. I've never known one.
Yeah.
But now what we're seeing is something unprecedented, something that I think missionaries had been working towards and praying towards since the late 19th century, when there was a massive missions movement towards countries like Egypt and Iraq and Syria. And it's hard not to, it's hard not to talk about this in terms of the dreams and visions that are occurring in the lives of
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
And it's I come from a Reformed background, and so it's hard for people in the Reformed community to understand this. And I'm actually writing about this for Reformed Theological Seminary, is that what we're seeing is, I think, an outpouring of God's Spirit in presenting the gospel, or at least pushing people towards the church and towards the scriptures that do not know him and had no prior knowledge of him in any form. One of the cases we're dealing with now was a man who had this dream of a church. He just saw this massive church, and it was that led him to go to the traditional church. The traditional church did not welcome him, and so he ended up going to an online community, finding a evangelical community, and coming to faith. And ultimately, he died. He was martyred. But it all started with this dream that he couldn't explain, and his family said he was crazy for having it.
Yeah, Nabil, how often are you hearing that story, and what are they saying?
Sometimes when I share with my brothers in the church, I said to them that I feel Jesus sometimes he feel give up from his ministers, so he's doing the work himself. He's visiting people, and he's showing them like himself in miraculous ways. And these people, like this man, Brother Josh, shared about, he don't know the church, he don't know anything about Jesus. He's living in a city, no Christians in it.